I have the honor of introducing our moderator for today's discussion, Jason Stein. Jason has worked with Wisconsin Policy Forum since 2018, serving as president since 2024, and prior to that as vice president and research director. In his time with the forum, his reports have received multiple awards from the Governmental Research Association. Before joining the forum, Jason worked as a Capitol reporter for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel and for the Wisconsin State Journal. His reporting was recognized by journalism groups such as the American Society of News Editors, the Society of American Business Editors and Writers, and the Association of Capitol Reporters and Editors. Milwaukee Magazine also named him as one of the city's most influential media figures in 2015. Please welcome Jason Stein, who will introduce our speakers today.
All right, welcome everybody. And thank you for having the three of us here. I am Jason Stein, president of the Wisconsin Policy Forum, which, as I think all of the downtown Rotarians know, is a nonpartisan organization that does work on many issues in the city, including the education and finances of the Milwaukee Public Schools. And I have here to my left the Interim Superintendent, Eduardo Galvan of MPS, who has served in the district for more than 3 decades, and most recently, prior to this current job, as Regional Superintendent of the Southwest Region from 2018 to June 2024, when he assumed his current role. My understanding is in your long career, you've done everything from teaching kindergarten up to serving as a principal. Okay, very good. And then to his left, we have Jilly Gokalgandhi, the Vice President of the MPS Board, which is a position to which she was elected in April 2021. Previously, she has served as Community Schools Coordinator through the United Way for Bradley Tech and Trade High School, and now works at the American Family Dreams Foundation, where she funds a national portfolio of social impact initiatives. So without further ado, our two guests are going to talk for 15 or 20 minutes here about the issues facing the Milwaukee Public Schools and the path forward as they see it. And then I'm going to ask them some questions, and then you are going to ask them some questions. So that's the drill, and we'll just get on with it.
Thank you very much, Jason, and thank you all for inviting us. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here to talk about the great Milwaukee Public Schools and our steps to move forward. So again, thank you for caring about our children and our city. I've often said this, so I'll repeat it here. The work of Milwaukee Public Schools is our work. Anybody who lives or works in the city of Milwaukee has a vested interest in its success. And so it is our work. And so I hope that we can count on all of you here to be with us in that work. We understand our challenges and we understand what we need to do move forward. And we hope that you're there with us. Having said that, just again, it's not about me, but I just wanted to give you a little bit more of my background. First of all, as was mentioned, I have been in MPS my entire adult career. Even prior to that, I was attending Carroll College, now Carroll University, and I was running soccer camps at many of the high schools out here in Milwaukee. And so that was my first entrance into that world of wanting to be around children and wanting to do something. Plus, I loved soccer, so it was an easy in. Then I came to Milwaukee Public Schools, and as was mentioned, I did work in nearly every capacity. I've had opportunities to leave Milwaukee Public Schools on 3 very distinct, separate occasions, and every single time I said no. And the reason I said no was because I know the value of Milwaukee Public Schools and what it does for our community. I am the son of 2 immigrants. My father is from Mexico, and my mother's from Colombia, South America. They met here at a Halloween party, I'm going to say 60 plus years ago, and have been married, and we lived here in the Milwaukee area my entire life. So again, I'm bilingual. I value the cultures and the diversity of Milwaukee, and I think that's sometimes forgotten the great value that it brings to us. So those are the reasons that I chose to stay. And there's another thing that when I was thinking about what I was going to say, in my living room, I have a poster that I've had framed that says, it's not about the me, it's about the we. So that is central to what I believe. It's not about me. It's not about an individual in this room. It's about the collective that we can do to move forward and to make the lives better for our families here in Milwaukee. So again, I'm honored to be here today. Since I was appointed a month ago, my focus has been to make sure that we're ready to go. 1 week from today exactly, we open our doors to our students. And our students will be back at school. They'll be back in the places that they know and they love. They'll see teachers that they know and love and administrators and friends. And they'll meet their new teachers for those kindergartners that are walking in. So we'll be ready, and we are ready. On a note, in terms of our preparedness, I was at North Division High School today, early this morning, meeting with about 150 or so food service helpers, our nutrition staff, because they're of such great value to our students, right? I think when we think about Milwaukee Public Schools, we know, and hopefully you all know, all that we do for our students, right? We go beyond the ABCs. We feed our children. For many of our children, that meal when they come to school is the best meal, most nutritious meal they may have, right? When they have to see a nurse, when they have to learn, when they have to learn how to be productive citizens, how to engage in conversation, how to move past disagreement. Those are all things that we help them learn. So it's important to me to make sure that those food service helpers heard from me, and we welcome them back because they make a difference in the lives of our children every single day. Later in the week, I'll be meeting with our school safeties to help them understand the importance of their work. The last 2 weeks, we've been meeting with staff, all of our principals, our teachers, our teacher teams within each building, their teacher leadership teams that help develop a plan, our school improvement plans, that'll lead the work throughout the year. So all of that work has been ongoing. That focus has never wavered. And we will be ready, and our students will be welcomed. So I did want to share that with you. Along with that, we have professional development. We're working with the Department of Public Instruction, the CISA 1, to provide professional development around things like Act 20. We have a new math curriculum, a new ESL curriculum that will be onboarding this year. We're developing models of shared leadership so that our teams can work more effectively together as an organization. In terms of staffing, we're at a better place this year as we enter the school year than we've been in a number of years, and certainly pre-pandemic. So those are all good steps in the right direction. I have notes because otherwise I tend to go astray, so thank you for that. I know that we need to rebuild trust in the community, and that's part of our goal for being here today, to re-engage in the community, engage in partners, hopefully, that maybe we haven't engaged with recently. We understand our challenges. We understand that we need to do better, and we believe we're making those steps to do just that. Today, I want to talk to you about a little bit about some of the stuff that we have in plan again. So in terms of where we were, and I don't want to spend a lot of time lingering, I know there's a lot of questions about that, but our situation that we went through in June with some of the reporting issues and caused us to move forward in a different direction in terms of school leadership. We have made significant progress in that. We're working with DPI, and I apologize if I stepped on some of your notes here, but here we go. So we do meet with DPI on a daily basis, working on different projects. What I can assure you is that the financial situation that we encountered, at this point, there is no evidence, nor has there ever been any evidence that there's any money missing, that there was some kind of misappropriation, that there was those kinds of issues. We did have issues that were related very directly to Staffing, we had a huge number of vacancies in that financial department. When DPI moved to a new reporting system for data, the largest school districts in the state weren't in line with that. Our system didn't speak directly to WISE data. So that caused issues as well. So obviously we had errors of reporting in terms of delays in that reporting, and we are well on our way to correcting those. So we've been working with, like I said before, DPI. We have our external auditor Baker Tilly, who's meeting with us and working with us regularly. We've contracted with Kristen Larson Allen, CLA, to provide some technical support, as we bring on new people to our financial office. We understand that we also need to build capacity. We need to build those opportunities for those individuals from within to then be trained so that when we report data to the Department of Public Instruction or any federal entity, that we're doing that correctly. And those things I'm happy and proud to say that we're well on our way to correcting. And we'll continue to provide those updates as we get farther along down that road. I should probably have moved this. Yeah, I think so. We're good right here. All righty. So just kind of a large macro view of some of what we wanted to share with you in terms of Milwaukee Public Schools. And for those of you, all of you, are business people. I live more in the world of academics, but we are a business as well. So something that you may be able to relate to depending upon the size of your business or your relationships with the businesses that you work with. We are represented about $1.5 billion budget that serves 67,000 students. I did want to clarify that we service all students. Every single student that comes to our door, we take. We don't turn students away. We don't choose students. We take all of our students. 91% of our students are students of color. 21% require special education. We offer dozens and different types of programming, from STEAM, AP, Montessori, bilingual, and many, many other programs to meet the needs of our diverse group. And all of our students that want to be in MPS have a place to be in MPS. MPS employs approximately 10,000 teachers, paraprofessionals, administrators, and non-teaching staff, such as those kitchen service people that I was with this morning, and who support those 67,000 people. We also contract out for busing services, so that's a whole nother area of services that we have. So as you can tell, we're a very large organization. And so I know that sometimes some of that in the past has drawn remarks about how we're difficult to work with. I can assure you that any difficulty that you encounter, we will work through. We want to be good partners. We want to have people come to us. When we encounter, or when you encounter some difficulties, obviously when we're working with children, when we're working within an organization that protects the rights of children, we have to take some certain steps. So I am not a businessman in the sense of in the private world, but know that we want to be partners and we want to work through those. So if you try to engage with us and there are difficulties, please let us know. And we will always do our best to work through that. So as we talk about what we need, again, we need to build that trust back, but we also need to be honest about some of the challenges that we have. We are working, again, as I mentioned, to improve test scores. We understand the reality that that's what we need to do. We also understand that what we do for children goes beyond test scores. When we have children that come to us and they need our support to learn how to interact, to learn how to do something as simple as sharing crayons, to learn how to be good, productive members. And again, especially in today's climate, what I think is so important is this idea that even when we disagree, there's a way to do that, right? And I think as reflected in our society and our city, we have challenges. Many of them stem from the fact that we've stopped listening to each other. So that's one of the goals that we also have for our children, that they learn how to listen, they learn how to learn and be part of our community and be productive members of that community. But again, when we talk about MPS's needs, we also have to talk about the money. And it's not just Milwaukee Public Schools. I know there's been a lot of focus on the referendum. I can assure you that without that referendum, we would be in very dire straits. So we want to thank those of you who voted for that and understand those who did not. But again, it has helped us tremendously. And again, just to clarify, we are not the only school district that has gone to referendum. I believe you're all aware of the numbers, the large numbers of schools and districts throughout our state who are going to referendum simply because our funding formula is not working to support public schools in Milwaukee. So I just did want to clarify that. According to a report by Forward Analytics, 100 districts went to referendum. More than 10% of the district spending is accounted for through referendum. That's across the state. So that's important to know. Since 1992, 85% of Wisconsin school districts have put more than 1,500 operating referendum questions on the ballot. Last year in the state, referendum approved spending totaled $650 million. That's up from $180 million in 2010. Again, I just share that as a reference when we think about the business side of operating a district, especially a district our size, with the needs of our district in terms of our special education population, in terms of our English language learner population, in terms of the poverty. There are great needs. I have been fortunate enough to talk to a number of superintendents, and in fact, I was with some this past fall in La Crosse, and we were talking about finance and the impact that that has in places around La Crosse and in smaller districts are very similar to ours. Again, the scale that we experience them here in Milwaukee Public Schools makes it a challenge. But again, we just wanted to make you aware, if you hadn't known that those are things that we deal with every day. And 94% of every dollar that we have budgeted goes to our classrooms. So again, we did recently go to referendum again, and that money has been instrumental in ensuring that we have the opportunity to provide services and opportunities for our students. It just as a little historical context, I was the principal at View School, right by Bradley Tech on National Avenue, 4th and National, for about 9 years or so. During that time, when I first began as a principal there, I had 700 students in my building. I didn't have an art teacher, I didn't have a music teacher, and I had a physical education teacher. So those were things that we were struggling with because simply we didn't have the financial opportunities to be able to provide those services to our students. It got to the point where at a certain point I had to make a decision. I cut my assistant principal position out of that building because we had a Project Lead the Way lab that our wonderful partners in Rockwell helped us open up, and it simply was a resource that we couldn't not have someone there to teach our children. So those are the kinds of decisions that referendum have helped us be able to do, is to provide those needed services that other students in other parts of our state and our surrounding areas have. Our students deserve that, just like any other student. So those are the reasons that the referendum was important. Again, just some stark realities. Wisconsin is last in the nation in special education funding, last in funding for English language learners, and we still need to make sure that we have a clear policy on how we're going to support these students moving forward. And again, that's not just Milwaukee Public Schools, that is the state of Wisconsin. So those are real things. In spite of these challenges, we still make progress. We have almost eliminated, as I mentioned earlier, the situation where we don't have art, music, and physical education for every school in the district. We do. We have some form of art education, music education, or physical education in every school in our district. Those are the things that we've done to move forward. Our students, we have refreshed our college and career spaces and have new guidance counselors. This past week, I was in a meeting with our M-Cubed partners, MATC and UW Milwaukee, and they've helped us provide opportunities for our students. And they've also helped us to partner with business leaders to provide internships. And just want to give a shout out, and I forgot to do this earlier, but Dr. Hill is somewhere, so if any of you have internship opportunities, he's the man to see right over there. So thank you, Dr. Hill. And I have a wonderful team here who I forgot to mention, but I would feel remiss not to. Dr. Tina Owen-Moore, our board clerk, Todd Gray, our interim CFO, who has helped us through this tremendously, Nicole Amendares, our communications chief of staff, Paulette Chambers, and Chris Thiel, my all-around go-to guy about what's going on at the state level. So thank you very much. Yeah. I've been told I'm running short on time, so I did steal some of your talking points, though. Again, we're moving in the right direction. We hope to make a major announcement very, very soon regarding our CFO. Out of respect for the process, I won't name a name, but when it does come out, it's going to be a very recognizable and competent person who has ties to Milwaukee and will be able to help us take that next step forward. We'll keep Mr. Gray on board to help that transition as we bring the new CFO on by the start of the first day of school. Again, I wanted to make sure that I reiterate that we are here to do the best that we can with your help for all of the students in the city of Milwaukee. And I'd like to turn it over to my wonderful co-presenter, a school board director, Jilly Gokalgandhi. And on a personal note, I wanted to thank her and all the board members for the hard work that they do. It's thankless work, oftentimes comes under scrutiny that sometimes isn't deserved. But I thank you for your service to our students.
Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. No, Tuesday. It's Tuesday. I don't even know what day of the week it is. Anyway, I'm Jilly Gokalgandhi. I am proud to serve as the Vice President of the Milwaukee Public School Board, and I have been serving in this position. People always said, like, why do you want to run for the school board? And then doubly, they were like, why do you want to run for the school board during the pandemic? And I was like, because you have to get messy with democracy. And then people have asked me again, are you regretting that decision to sign on to run for the school board during the pandemic? And I was like, no, because I've learned a lot. And so, part of my thing too is, how do we as a democratically governed board, how have we been supporting Milwaukee Public Schools through this process? And fun fact about me, my Rotary connection is that my aunt in Mumbai, India is actually on the executive board of her Rotary there. So I told her I was presenting today and she was very excited to hear that. The other thing is I am multilingual. I am an immigrant. Valia from Kane Communications always puts in my notes that to tell people I'm a millennial and to not hold it against me, but I think it's kind of fun to be a millennial. So just a little bit about me. And so I wanted to provide a little bit of update on, you've heard from Mr. Galvan where we've been and the challenges we've endured. And you've all seen it across the news of the news that dropped in June, right? And so there were a couple of things that we addressed quickly. So one was, what was the root problem of the issue, right? And the root problem of that issue, one was a leadership issue and it was a technology issue. And it was a staffing issue. And really, it can be boiled down to those 3 points. And so as the board started to learn about what those issues were, we started to address them in an appropriate and timely manner. So I'll start with the staffing issue. So immediately, you saw the letter come to the Milwaukee Public School Board in May, and then 4 days after that, right? I still remember it was Memorial Day weekend, and we took action on Monday. You saw an incredibly long meeting where we had some leadership changes. You see Mr. Galvan sitting right next to me, who's now leading our district. You see Dr. Tina Owen-Moore, who has been with the district and also led a large urban school district, now come to us and help us rethink our practices as a board, what we can do internally to ensure that we are getting the information that we need to properly serve our students and our families, as well as ensure that the operations of our school district, a $1.5 billion organization, is no joke, right? You heard Mr. Galvan talk, though, that the funding environment that we're in currently, you are all business people out there. I work for a corporation, right? I manage a $23 million portfolio of social impact initiatives. My team, we have 14 of us, right, just to do that work. If you look at the ratio of finance staff to those who are managing a $1.5 billion budget, we were woefully understaffed, right? And you might say, well, great, go out and hire more people, if you know that that's the problem. But again, when we talk about the lagging of funding, when we talk about the operational dollars that are needed to do this work, they're just not there. And so you have to make really tough decisions, right? And so when we ask our community, what do you want? When you think of the $1 that Milwaukee Public Schools has, where do you want that money to go? Well, our community said, we want the most sense of that dollar to go into our classrooms. And we said, we agree. So 94 cents on every dollar goes into our classrooms. That leaves 6 cents for an administrative function. So I just want to put that in perspective, right? When we have 6 cents to manage an administrative function of $1.5 billion, you're making decisions, and those decisions then are reflected in the work product that is happening. And so, we have been addressing those problems. You've heard from Mr. Galvan that we've had some hiring updates in terms of organizations that are coming to help look at our processes. You've seen the governor issue operational and instructional audits. So that will be another wraparound service that will welcome and will take sort of an audit of what we're doing and what we could be doing better. And third, the funding is an issue. And so we have Mr. Thiel with us today. He works hard in Madison to make sure that our legislators and our voters know that funding our public school systems means funding the bedrock of democracy and funding the kids in our families and our community that need it most. You also heard from Mr. Galvan that we're working with DPI on a daily basis to ensure that our corrective action plan is something that we're paying attention to and that we're having daily communication with them to ensure that the steps are being taken so that we are not in this position and that we're rectifying the errors that were previously made. And the PowerPoint is, I guess, moot point now, so you could just listen to me talk about fun things. We're focused on the future, right? And we have to be, because at the end of the day, Milwaukee Public Schools is, however you feel about it, it still serves 67,000 students in this city. It is still the largest serving public education entity that we have. And so none of us can really afford for it to fail, because we know that strong schools equate to strong communities, right? I had the great fortune a couple of years ago to buy a home in the River West neighborhood. So I am an invested taxpayer. And when I look around my neighborhood, I live right by Gensland School, and the amount of community members that I see using those facilities for weaving in the basement, to bring their kids to summer recreation programs, to bring their kids to swimming. And it's one of the only public pools in our community that is accessible to all differing abilities, right? I live right next to the pumping station, which is a Milwaukee recreation park. Every day this summer, I have seen people playing in the tennis courts, picking up their pickleballs to get in the new fad, on the baseball field, and in those the basketball courts. And so, people think that MPS just provides education as the primary item, but we don't. We provide so much more than that. And so, if you want to see a strong, thriving community, we have to continue to invest. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank all of you Rotarians. You all innately understand this, right? Because you fund scholarships for Milwaukee Public School students. And we are so thankful to that. You have helped bring in hundreds of dollars in financial awards and mentorship. And most of the students who have benefited have graduated from an MPS high school. So it's not something I have to explain to you, because you understand that, and you understand how important it is to participate in that democratic process. And I'll leave you with this. I have learned a lot in my last 3 years being on this public school board, and democracy is messy, and it's hard, and it's often heartbreaking because progress is incremental, and it is something that we all have to show up for, because if we don't show up for it, if we don't care about our kids and our public schools, then we're destined to fail. I think, Sister talked about, investing in education, right, and investing in the kids. And that's what we're here to do. And so I want to thank you all for your time. I want you to know that we are moving forward, and we're really to be here and answer your questions.
All right. Well, thank you both very much. And we'll move to the questions. We don't have a lot of time, so I'll cut to what is maybe to me the most important one, and that is the issue of chronic absenteeism. So students that miss more than, let's say, 10% of school days. And that's been a problem that the forum's been watching, both for the city but also for the state and the nation. This is a widespread issue. We have seen some decrease in the last year in chronic absenteeism, but it got to a level of very high, I think about half of all students in 2023. And so my question would be, what is MPS doing to address this issue, and what could the community do to support the district and get more students in the game?
Okay. Well, thank you. And yes, that is an issue that in my 30 years in MPS and from colleagues and friends around any urban setting, it is an issue. So what we have done is attendance is always in the forefront for us because we understand that a student that isn't in the building can't learn. And in addition, you know, if they're out there doing something that is counter to what we want them to be doing, it impacts our society and our city. So we have taken a proactive approach in terms of we have curriculum designed to address that. We work with our school counselors, our school social workers. We work with the city. Again, this is part of when I said we can't always measure success by a test score. A student that we can reach that has been maybe missing 30, 40 days of school, if we can get them to miss 20 days the next year, 10 days the next year, that's a win. So we look at it that way. We're restructuring some of our services within our buildings, within our district. As Director Gokalgandhi said, we have to make tough choices about staffing and positions. So we have a lot of separate groups that do wonderful work, but we're trying to bring them all together to make a more focused approach to attack that issue, whether that's attendance, whether that's emotional need, whether that's behavioral need, so that our resources go farther together as opposed to these little groups. We do need the support of the community in terms of, I think part of the reason people want to go to school, or that I wanted to go to school, was that community, and we still have that, but also that thought that school has meaning, right? So that when you leave school, you have opportunities. I know, again, I mentioned it earlier, but when we were at M Cube, those students are our students, and they have those opportunities. So when people feel hopelessness, when people feel that they don't have that opportunity, when you don't have that background that maybe your mom or your father or your brother or your sister has gone on to higher education, or that they have learned what it means to work hard, and not because they can't, it's because they haven't been given that opportunity. So when you have an opportunity to mentor, when you have an opportunity to provide internship, or even to come and volunteer someday to read, those are things that we can do. And then obviously we need to address the issues of mental illness in our society. We need to address, and again, to be clear, Milwaukee Public Schools will do all that it can, but we cannot do this alone. We need the community, we need the city to help us with that.
And I just want to add, we think about our kids in bunches of statistics often, and that doesn't necessarily humanize the story, right? So when we think about the city and the county and the state, like this, let's contextualize this problem, right? Often the social contract that we expect for all of us in this room to have falls short, right? So when we think about housing, when we think about access to the medical system, when we think about those social safety nets, you've seen our statistics, right? We serve kids who are maybe have more barriers to entry. And so we also have to think about what are the public policy issues in our city and our state that aren't necessarily being addressed for our families. Like that factors into when our kids do and don't show up. So I just also wanted to provide, from the electoral side, there are things that we can do and work together to make sure that kids and our families have a more secure social safety net.
Great. Quick question. The district has not yet posted the audited 2023 financial statements to its website, though that fiscal year closed on June 30th of 2023. Do you have a timeline for when those will be posted?
Again, as I mentioned earlier, we work directly with DPI and Baker Tilly. We are very, very close. I'm not going to give a date that I can't be sure of, but we will have that information in. And my wonderful CFO over there, Mr. Gray, can answer some direct questions about that later if you want to ask him. But we are well on our way to get the CFA in. We are well in the way to get that reporting done so that we are moving forward and moving on to go to a place where we know that we won't be in this situation again.
The forum has documented in our annual budget briefs on the MPS finances, which all of you can read for free on our website, that the district has, as Jilly spoke about, prioritized protecting school operations budgets and not central staff. Did we get to the point, though, now where we had the challenges filing timely and accurate financial statements, did we get the point to where maybe we went too far in that direction? And is there a need, even though everyone wants the kids to have every dime that we can give them, is there also maybe a balancing act there in terms of making sure that also we can do what we need to do on the administrative side?
It's really unfortunate that we found ourselves in a situation where we have to do either or, in a state where we have the money to do both and. And so that goes back to my point of, if we fix our funding formula, if we give our kids the money that they need to operate our schools, we wouldn't be in this situation. Now, we're going to have to continue to negotiate and ask ourselves what is more important. And there's no perfect answer, right? Because someone in the state we're in the situation we're in, someone is going to lose. But it does not have to be that way. And that's why I continue to ask all of you, as you vote, as you talk to your representatives, we do not have to be in this situation. It does not have to be this way. And so I continue to ask, why are we in this situation, and why do we have to make really tough choices when there is a pathway forward where both parties win?
I'll ask sort of a long question and a short question. It's kind of my alternate thing. Here's a short question. To the interim superintendent, do you have any interest in making that permanent superintendent? Do you have an interest in that role?
Well, I have to talk to my wife, so I'm not going to. I have served for Milwaukee Public Schools, as I said earlier, for over 30 years. I'm going to be here as long as the directors and the school board want me here, and when that process is announced, everybody will know.
Okay, so stay tuned on that, I'm hearing. To Jilly, a question about just how the board works. In the light of everything that's happened over the past several months, is the board acting differently in your view, and what is getting more scrutiny from the board now that perhaps it did not in the past?
Yeah, I definitely think you've seen a board that has acted differently, right? When we received the letter in May, we were hands-on. I was very involved in the day-to-day. I think every day I was meeting with DPI. I have a full-time job. I'm not sure if everyone knows this, but the public school board, engagement is a part-time job. It is a part-time gig as it stands, and it is not financially exciting. You do it because you care about your community. So I still have, like you heard, a full-time job, and so that engagement was probably on a day-to-day basis the most I've done in my 3 years, and yet it still requires, like on a good week, when you're not dealing with a financial crisis, you're probably putting 20 to 30 hours in, and this was a totally different engagement. I think the question becomes, right, what are the expectations? What are the expectations of a part-time school board member? What are we asking them to do? And how deeply are we asking them to engage in the democratic process? And so I think that remains a question for the community, right? This is a great, I would love to have this conversation and welcome any of you to have a more in-depth conversation about it, because I think it's really important. And unfortunately, it has been raised in a time where there's a crisis. But I also like to imagine a future in which we have full-time school board members who are re-envisioning our education system and really addressing the needs of 21st century learners, because it's really different than even when I went to school. And so I think that's a conversation we need to have as a community.
Okay. The State Department of Public Instruction has told MPS that it expects to reduce its general school aids payment to the district this year by about $81 million. That's not a final number. It's a preliminary number. Could change. But it's a big blow, obviously, to the district to absorb. And I wonder if you could just tell the audience a little bit more about how you expect to do that.
So the $81 million number, just to clarify, it's a number, but it's really identifying an overpayment on top of a reduction, right? So that number is fantastical. It gets a lot of news headlines. But again, we have plans in place. We have fund balances and things that we can do to make sure that we're not impacting the services that we're providing our students.
When you talk about fund balances, are you saying there's something called an extension fund? It's also sometimes known as a community services fund that helps pay for, I believe, some of the programming you would have done as a soccer coach, right? Oh, what position did you play when you played soccer?
Center forward and center half.
Okay, there you go. So, I know I believe there's a balance in that fund. Is that one of the balances that you're looking at potentially drawing down?
Again, we're going to examine every fund that we have access to that also won't, at the same time, put us in a situation where we're negative impacted going forward. So when we get to that point, and again, we also are waiting, we won't have a final number from DPI until approximately October 15th or so, at which point we will have a better understanding of the exact needs of our district. So, whether it's that fund, whatever, Fund 80, whatever we need to access, we will look into that.
Okay. Just shifting here from the operating budget to just the long-term capital needs of the district, what would be the timeline for going through developing a facilities plan and addressing the question, one of the things that MPS has struggled, a lot of districts around the state are struggling with declining enrollment. It's been a particular issue here in MPS. When do you think you will have a facilities plan, and would you expect that facilities plan would look at the number of schools that the district has in the light of the enrollment changes?
Yeah, so we're currently engaging with a firm, Perkins Eastman, to relook at our long-range facilities master plan, because say that 10 times, huh? There are a bunch of different levers that they're going to provide to us in terms of facilities updates, the more efficient use of our facilities, where are kids going and coming from, what are the trends and patterns, what schools are being utilized. And so there will be a variety of options that we are given by this firm to think about the way that we operate our district, right? We understand that we're at a really crucial point in who's coming to our school, how many kids are coming to our school, and what services we're providing. And so we will have room and engagement for all of you to come, one, to listen to that long-range facilities master plan, because I know that there's nothing more that you want to do on a Tuesday night than come to Valete Street to see us on the board floor. And there are also engagement sessions that have been recorded and are put on our website. And so we are in the midst of that long-range facilities master plan, and we'll continue to have discussion around that.
And just to add to that, so even earlier today, I was in a meeting with Parkman Eastman, and we, again, we'll have a tool available that will be available to anybody that wants to access it. They'll have little filters that you can click on to see the conditions of some of the buildings, the utilization, and again, they will offer up some recommendations to us. I did want to clarify when we talk about building and building usage. So as a whole, Milwaukee Public Schools is operating at about 80% capacity, which is a really, really good number in terms of school districts. What our challenges have been is that, we have some buildings that are overutilized and some buildings that are underutilized. And some of that is just because we as a district have a choice way of operating, meaning our parents can choose to go to different places for different programming to do different things, right? So this is another area where we maybe could engage the community, engage others. We all know the history of the city of Milwaukee. We all know the issues of segregation. We all know the issues of safety. So sometimes perception becomes reality. So we have people going to different parts of the city because they feel it is safe. So we need to do a better job, and we can encourage you as Milwaukeeans to, hopefully Milwaukeeans, or if not, you spend a lot of time here, to help us change that narrative. Milwaukee is a great place. Milwaukee, again, we need to become safer. We need to become more accepting. We need to become more, did I say, loving of each other, and embrace that diversity and embrace those challenges that we have and work together to fix them. And that would go a long way. So, I just wanted to clarify that when people say, space utilization and underutilized buildings, as a district, we have about 80%. We could fill our schools to 80% capacity. Our challenge is to make sure that where we're over-enrolled, we get some of our families to stay maybe in their neighborhood, and that will solve some of that as well.
Okay, and this will have to be quick because we need to wrap up, but I did have one question. There was a news report this week that the Wauwatosa School Board had asked for a memo about a potential partial merger with MPS. Unclear what that term means. And that the memo, as it turns out, said that there was not a legal path to this, is what the news report said. But I was curious if you just speak to, did anyone from the district or the board approach MPS to your knowledge to ask about this?
I mean, I think we have enough on our plates. So I'm going to focus on what's happening now and welcoming our kids back to school in a couple weeks.
Yeah, and to be clear, I can't speak to Wauwatosa. I don't work for them, but they certainly haven't reached out to us.
Okay, so as far as you know, news to you. Okay, great. Well, I want to wrap up here, and I think Saj will come back and read us out. But thank you all for being here. Thank you to our guests, and look forward to seeing you guys soon.